Live, local, late breaking. This is WNBF News at 7.
All you can do is wait and see what happens. It's tough to leave.
The storm has passed, but the effects of Florence are only beginning. People displaced, flooded homes, abandoned pets. WNBF is here with you through it all. We're continuing to bring you the updates on road conditions and the stories of those who no longer have a place to call home, plus the heartwarming measures our community is taking to help those suffering from the storm. Thanks for joining us tonight at 7. I'm Meredith Heline.
Good evening to you. I'm Eric Weisfeld. And both sides of 501 bypass, you should know, are now closed. And because of that, 501 business facing a lot of backups.
You may remember the northbound side of 501 bypass has been closed for most of the week. That's because SCDOT crews have been building flood barriers there.
The only option drivers have at this point is 501 business. But SCDOT says once the waters from the Waccamaw rise high enough and that road floods, they're going to have to close that as well. Officials say if both 501 bypass and business are closed, as long as 22 remains closed, the only way in or out of the city is through 17 and 701. That's if the Bucksport area on 701 doesn't flood.
County officials urging you to not be out on the roads if you don't have to be.
Don't make any unnecessary trips. Don't run in for a cone of ice cream somewhere. Stay in your general area. Do as much of your business as you can in your general area. There's some people who have to get to drugstores and things like that in Conway that live on this side of the river, and that's going to be a bear. Try to combine all the trips that you can.
And Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold riding above Highway 501 today on a helicopter.
Yeah, Jamie, what stuck out to you most today?
The thing that stuck out to me the most, I think, about flying over 501 and Lake Busby in the Conway area was just how busy it was. It was a very, very busy area compared to all the other flooded areas we had seen. Obviously, the traffic on 501 was very backed up for basically as far as you could see, but also a lot of boats were working. There were boats that were working on the Aqua Dam at the Coal Ash Pond. You had the construction that was going on the flood barrier on 501. You had boats along the waterfront in the river itself. And then, of course, you had the actual flooding itself in and around Conway, very visible from about 1,000 feet up. That was our altitude during our flight today. You could see the water obviously down at the marina, overtaking the river walk, beginning to creep into areas, especially on the north, on the east, and also on the south sides of town. In some places, that water was pretty deep. Over by the Super 8, where that's normally in the past floods been sort of a staging post for people coming in and out, it was completely isolated and surrounded by water. We're going to take you through a couple more of our stops today from our helicopter tour of Horry County coming up. Right now, though, let's send it over to Robert with the very latest on those water levels.
And we start with the Waccamaw River. If there's any piece of good news, up toward Highway 9, the original forecast called for a crest of 23 feet. That has been reduced to 21. That still means there's another 8 to 9 inches of climb there here over the next 24 hours, then slow drops on the Waccamaw up towards Highway 9's Aberdeen and Longs over the next 48 hours as we head past Saturday. Downstream of that, the water continues to rise. No official forecast from the National Weather Service for the gauge at Highway 22 and Old Reeves Ferry Road, but both of those areas rising rapidly here over the last couple of days and will continue to rise. As we make our way into Conway, we're sitting at 17.9 feet. The crest is set for Wednesday at 22 feet. And then Bucksport sitting at 19 feet right now. 27 feet is the forecast through next Thursday. Of course, those water levels going 3 to 4 feet above what we saw in Matthew near Socastee as well. Much more on our other rivers and our forecast through the weekend here in a little bit.
And to continue our team coverage tonight, it's been 1 week since Hurricane Florence made landfall, but the impact is still being felt throughout Horry County as river levels continue to rise. Ian Klein is live in Bucksport, where residents there are preparing with sandbags. Ian.
Yeah, Meredith, this place has been very busy for the past 2 days, and trucks and cars are still trying to fill the last few sandbags that are in this area. They said this place was filled yesterday and are surprised to see how many sandbags have already gotten, but means residents are taking this seriously. Now, I was in this area all afternoon, and we were actually able to take a boat ride on the Waccamaw and see how much those water levels have driven, However, neighbors in this area, they say they're sometimes fearful that others aren't taking the rising river levels as seriously, since some of those impacted by Matthew really lived more closer to the rivers. But this afternoon I was able to take a boat ride on the Waccamaw, see just how high these levels of the river have already risen in just a short amount of time. Steve Howell, he's lived in the Bucksport Little Lamb community for over 60 years. He says his biggest fear is those living near the swamps, which also include his family.
It's just like in every disaster like this, people lose lives. And we can lose our houses and cars, and we can replace them, but you cannot replace those lives. And I would tell people, take it a little more serious. Don't panic, but at least have a plan A and a plan B.
And being here for several hours, I've gotten to meet so many people in this community, and everyone just so welcoming. You wish them nothing but the best as we kind of wait to see how much those water levels start to rise. And you'll hear from one man later tonight who lives right on the Waccamaw, and he believes he might not be getting back into his house with his car at least until November. Reporting live in Bucksport, Ian Klein, WNBF News.
And the anticipation for rising waters is growing every day in neighborhoods near the Intracoastal as residents scramble to prepare and understand the impact to them. WNBF's Samantha Coomer was out in Forest Brook today to get a sense of how these communities are preparing.
I walked around and talked to some residents about what they are feeling. One woman told me she had just come back from evacuation and is a little bit confused. Others are echoing that same sentiment of they just don't know what to expect.
I am in a little bit of a disbelief for it. If we do prepare for it, it'll probably just be like making sure we're not trapped without food and without water. I don't think it'll hit the house, but it might keep us from going out if it happens.
Many of the other residents I spoke to echoed the same sentiment of they're still trying to figure out what they should do and how much they are going to be impacted. Reporting in Horry County, Samantha Coomer, WNBF News.
Also at 7, Myrtle Beach Fire Rescue is in Conway right now helping the city respond to devastating floods. Aaron Edwards rode along with the department today.
As you can see behind me here, this is one of many roads filling up with water in the city of Conway, which is why Myrtle Beach Fire Rescue came here to assist the fire department with anything they need. I rode along with Myrtle Beach and Conway Fire as they checked out flooded streets in the area. Here's a look at conditions on Main Street. Firefighters tell me they actually used this road to get into work today, and within a few hours it flooded over and needed to close. Since it's so difficult to get in and out of the city right now, I asked Myrtle Beach Fire Captain James Clement if this will affect response times in the city.
That's why they have us out here. If with an extra crew out here, we can actually get to other people. We can get to more people if need be, and with increasing the manning out here, we can get to those people, if need be. Best thing is if people don't have to be out on the road, probably best not to be out on the road, because with the congestion, it's only going to get worse as the floodwaters rise and accessibility gets limited.
Myrtle Beach Fire says they'll be here to help as long as they're needed in the city of Conway. Reporting in Conway, Aaron Edwards, WNBF News.
United Health Group and its United Healthcare business donating $500,000 to help residents of South Carolina recover and rebuild from Hurricane Florence. The 1SC Fund, which provides grants to nonprofits to fund relief and recovery for natural disasters, will use the donation to support various organizations providing relief efforts. Governor Henry McMaster estimating Florence caused more than $1.2 billion in damage here in South Carolina. He requested $540 million in aid from several federal agencies, but also wants you to know you can help.
So it's always wonderful when people will come forward to help. We're always looking for volunteers. Volunteers make up the main strength of what we do.
And if you'd like to volunteer, you can sign up by heading over to our website, WNBFnews.com. From there, you're going to find our Live Links tab after hovering over the home icon. Our web story on volunteering is on that page. Follow the link on our web story to sign up to help in recovery and relief efforts.
Horses neck deep in rising waters. How rescuers managed to save those horses there. That story next at 7.
Check out these photos SCDOT provided of the Waccamaw flowing over Highway 22 this morning. Unbelievable. This is what so many drivers and people living in that area feared for so long. And again, we want to remind you that SC 22 is closed from SC 905 to SC 90. Officials urging you to seek alternate routes. There's the reason why.
On a call to save dogs, they came across 2 horses drowning. The New Jersey team has been freeing animals for the last several years in natural disasters. Colin Hackman has how they managed to conquer a bigger challenge.
In the height of the Pender County flooding, 2 horses up to their neck in water, likely for days, struggling to stay alive. Luckily for the horses, they've just been spotted by Nikki Dawson and her team, Guardians of Rescue.
It's absolutely our mission and calling to get to those animals that have no way out.
Dawson and her crew have been freeing animals from floodwaters pretty much nonstop for the last several years. Hurricanes in Puerto Rico, Texas, and Florida have kept this New Jersey team busy, but still ready to jump in to help those left behind.
There are so many people, desperate homeowners, that had to be evacuated by chopper and were not able to bring their pets with them. And they're desperate and crying and begging for help, and we have to respond to that.
On a call to rescue 9 dogs near Burgal, they came across 2 drowning horses. Slowly, they were able to get the horses to the only elevated ground for miles, a porch in front of a house. With no way to evacuate the hypothermic animals, they left hay, secured the porch, and reluctantly moved themselves to safety, not knowing how the horses would fare overnight.
And the best news of all is that we are here with Zoe and Piney, who are doing just fine. Some strange salty substance leaked out of my eyes. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty amazing.
Amazing, like the work of some out-of-town, nonprofit organizations that are doing what they can to save the lives of animals in our area.
And those rising water levels also impacting our area, as we all know.
Yesterday, Jamie was on a closed Highway 9, and today he flew in a helicopter above the flooded road near Aberdeen. And Jamie, what all did you see?
What we saw today over 9 was a lot of water, and the difference between being on the ground yesterday and being about 1,000 feet up in a helicopter today was pretty dramatic. Not only the scale of the flooding, but we could also see just how much the water had come up overnight last night into the first half of the day today. Highway 9, as you take a look at this, was closed for about at least a mile-long stretch. That closure starts right at the Living Waters Baptist Church. From there, you continue for about a mile up past Aberdeen, and that entire stretch is closed from not only water, but deep water and in some cases flowing water. Now, Aberdeen in particular hit very hard with that severe flooding. In some of the spots, the water was deep enough that it was about halfway up the windows of the houses, and in the real deep spots, it was actually getting close to the roof line. I know a lot of folks worried about Colonial Charters and Sun Colony. There was some water that was beginning to come into the backside of those complexes, and unfortunately may start to come up even more as we continue to see that water rise tonight and into the day tomorrow. Let's send it now back to the studio with Robert, and thankfully a dry forecast heading into the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. No additional rain expected through the weekend. Despite the sunny skies through the next couple of days, the rivers will continue to rise. I mentioned the Waccamaw earlier. Of course, the levels continuing to rise there, basically from 22 and south. It is starting to crest a bit up towards Highway 9. I do want to mention the waterway at Soxie is sitting at 14.5 feet right now. During Hurricane Matthew, just after Hurricane Matthew, got just over 19 feet. And we had a ton of flooding problems in Soxie. Here's the latest crest number. Anywhere between 22 and 24 feet is what they're calling for. That would be next Thursday. So we will see a steady climb in the water through the middle portions of next week. And that means the flooding problems probably significantly worse than we saw during Hurricane Matthew. It's not until the end of next week do all the rivers start to slowly head down. It will take some time, but no additional rainfall. Sunny skies. Slightly cooler temperatures, middle 80s along the Grand Strand. We actually get some 60s in here tomorrow morning. Inland areas well into the 60s tomorrow morning. Middle 60s right around 7 to 8 a.m. By lunchtime, we're into the 80s, and we're not going to see the 90s for the next couple of days. A break there, and no rain chances to speak of. There was a lot of dry air in place. At times, some moisture tries to get to the Carolinas. Remember, we were up in the high end of the scale over the last couple of weeks where we had the downpours of the afternoon. Of course, we were up at the high end as Florence is moving by. Right now, there's very little in here, and it's not until next week, the middle portions of next week, where the rain chances start to filter in. So until then, sunny skies, 80s here along the Grand Strand, 83 to 84 degrees both Saturday and Sunday. In your inland forecast, another round of 60s in the morning, likely in the middle to upper 80s through Sunday afternoon.
Residents in the PD ordered to leave their homes as a result of those rising river levels. How they're faring following the evacuation announcement.
I talked to the coach today. He said, yeah, we're down, we're playing. And I was just like, you sure?
Anybody get you highlights or anything?
No, we're not going to do highlights or anything. We're just
Tonight, people in the PD still at the mercy of Hurricane Florence's aftermath. Earlier today, Florence County officials ordering thousands of residents to evacuate ahead of rising waters from the Lynches River overtopping. Nia Watson went to those areas. She spoke with people having to pack up and leave because of the potential flooding.
I'm here along Highway 301 where a little more than 3,000 people in the area must leave their homes. Now behind me you can see why. You can already see the water from the Lynches River flowing into the area here, and residents I talk with say this isn't the first time this area has flooded.
We didn't get the hurricane, but we ended with all the flooding.
Some who live in Florence County say there's a price to pay with living in the countryside along the river. Floodwaters already invading people's yards and businesses. Authorities closing off roads, going door to door, warning people of the dangers ahead.
They've already came to my house and told us we had to be out by tonight.
Carol Britt lives on Old No. 4 Highway. She says the area is prone to flooding, but that doesn't make her less worried about what's to come.
I mean, we have buildings, sheds back there, a workshop. I mean, what's it gonna be like when we get back.
Melissa Fulmore, who lives on Meadow Prong Road, says she's dealt with the same problems during the last 2 storms.
I stood in my doorway and I watched the trees come up out the ground from the roots.
But Fulmore has a different attitude than most as the flood draws near.
The rivers are rising and, getting ready to crest, and the water's just coming up. I'm just excited to see what it's gonna be like.
For Britt, she says there's more danger lurking around than just rising flood water.
Then you have to worry about snakes in the water. It's gonna be, if it floods as bad as they say it is, it's gonna be a mess.
Meanwhile, Fulmore says she's looking on the brighter side of outcomes.
I'm not worried. No, it is what it is. Whatever happens, it's gonna happen. And I know that God will see us through it, so I'm not worried at all.
Officials say they anticipate the river to overtop by this weekend. If you need somewhere to go, there are 4 shelters set up around Florence County. They are the Johnsonville Baptist Church, the Coward Community Center, the Star Gym in Florence, and the Mount Clare Missionary Baptist Church in Lake City. Reporting in Florence County, Neil Watson, WNBF News.
Flood maps released from the Department of Natural Resources scaring some people. We'll tell you how reliable they are. And we're continuing to tell your stories following Florence. We talk with residents in Brunswick County, how rescue operations there are going. Stick with us. WNBF News at 7:30 is next.